Well, friends, welcome to my series on the future of HR technology. And today I have someone with me who's truly as passionate as me in the world of HR tech. And with that, I'd like to introduce us to Sunil Goyal. Hi, Sunil.
Hi, Thomas.
Good to have you today in this conversation. So Sunil is the Deputy CEO at Sopra, Steria, India. And they have around 6,000 odd employees here in India, and I thought it might be a great opportunity for us to have this conversation around the future of HR, the future of HR tech. So Sunil, really, there's been a lot of challenges around people really in the last couple of years, given the fact that it's been a work from home environment, a work from anywhere environment. And now a lot of organizations are trying to get employees, back to offices as well. There could be plenty of other challenges because you have employees working remotely. Many people went to their hometowns. Perhaps some of them don't want to come back. So I thought it would be great to hear from you, given the fact that you have such a diverse range of employees, in terms of what are all the various people-related challenges that you're facing these days.
So first of all, thanks Thomas for the gracious introduction, and it's great to be here with you. So I think McKinsey spoke about war for talent almost 2 decades back.
Right.
And now I think it's not only war, but it's a super war for talent. So I'll come to that in a bit. But yes, I think, in the initial part of the pandemic, it was just trying to get people to work from home because 100% workforce had to move there,
right.
Which I think every one of us did it. But as I think the pandemic is moving towards the endemic, and there are multiple issues which we now see, coming up, specifically related around the mental health well-being. How do you bring this gap between, the work and home?
Yeah.
Because that balance, how to do it. So that's where, a couple of months back, I started thinking about it. Obviously, I've been also reading about it a lot.
Right.
And I personally feel that the future of work is hybrid.
Right.
But within that hybrid, how do you bring in flexibility?
Right.
And for a larger organization to have a balance between these two is not all that easy, because you want to have a structured hybrid with flexibility, making rules to see that how you can have the discipline, etc., etc. Yes, I agree. There are challenges around, because a lot of people, even 50% of our workforce has moved out of the base stations to small towns, villages. Right. Obviously, they are saving on commute, they are saving on rentals, etc. But I think what they are missing out is, while you are in office, what I call it as learning by osmosis. Right. There are things which precipitate down from the leadership. You learn a lot by observing others. Now, these are things which you cannot do virtually or remotely through Teams, etc. So I think from a long-term perspective, it's very important that how people spend time in office, whatever we define, whether 2 days or 3 days, because the overall development for the future, the work from office will play a big role there. So yes, today I think for me, two challenges, big challenges. One, obviously, the war for talent remains, which is becoming even more difficult. And the second is, what's the future work and how do I implement it at Sopra Steria?
Yeah, so related to that, Sunil, I've also been reading, so for instance in the US, 60% of the millennials have said that they would like to have 2 jobs at the same time, right? And in fact, there's a huge gig force which has also emerged. So, and even in India, I hear that, because of the fact that people are working remotely, perhaps they are doing multiple jobs at the same time. So is that something that you are seeing, or you feel that that is fine because, hey, as long as they're skilling and they're doing what they're supposed to do for us, we really don't worry about what else should they do. But is that an issue that, let's say, tech companies are typically facing, and is there something that people are planning to do about it?
Yeah, so first of all, let me start with what recently Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai gave comments about, that they see a big challenge around productivity of their people within the organization, and these are 2 large companies giving some excellent environment to work with. Secondly is, I do believe in gig workforce. Obviously, we have not been able to implement it fully here, but gig workforce with some ethics and values. So today when a person is joining me, he's committing that he's only going to work with Sopra Steria.
Right.
But on the side, he is taken up contractual job with other companies which we don't come to know about it.
Right.
So today it's a big challenge because we've come across certain times people who have taken up jobs with 10 companies at the same time. Now, physically it's impossible to work with.
Right.
So I think we are in a state of flux right now where India is still trying to work around that what this gig workforce, how it's going to work, what is going to be the regulations, etc.
Yeah.
I know there are some large companies which allow you to do moonlighting or sunlighting, as we say.
Right.
Today at Sopra Steria we don't have this, and I personally feel that yes, it is impacting the productivity, it is impacting the other aspects. But yeah, slowly I think we will have to allow this and make it as part of our policy that if you have a gig workforce, you allow them to work.
No, absolutely. In fact, I think it was one of the gurus of HR who I was reading somewhere who mentioned that actually by doing that, people will be honing their skills and therefore doing a great job in their for their home company as well. But having said that, I just want to move on to another area which is really managing people. Now, managing people has been a skill which has been highly envied for several years. In fact, a lot of leaders have struggled with it. And now with now you have a situation where a lot of people are remote. In fact, there are many managers who have hired teams without even meeting them in person. So they're all remote, they're diversely placed. So it really makes the people management skills even more complex.
Yeah.
And therefore, my question really, Sunil, is that what do you think organizations should be doing, and perhaps what is Sopra doing to really upskill managers and particularly first-time managers in terms of their entire people management capability?
Yeah, so wonderful question, Thomas. And in case if I'm able to crack this, possibly I will win the war on talent.
Right.
So even before the pandemic had set up, we had started working a lot on enabling our people to lead or manage their team well, and we had different programs which were running it. We had also started with coaching, etc. One of the common assessments which we run across middle level and upwards, which also goes to my level, is Hogan assessments, which gives us the strengths and the weaknesses, along with that a 360 degree. So we have started doing it, but obviously pandemic brought a stop to many of these initiatives. The learning has not been as much. But as you rightly said, in the new environment, this is going to become even more challenging because I think, as I said earlier, hybrid is going to be there. Within this hybrid, for example, how do you avoid the proximity bias? Someone sitting close to you, you don't become biased towards him as compared to someone who is working remotely. Doing the performance management, doing the learning, and on top of it, as you rightly said, there are people who are becoming first-time managers remotely, or they are first-time managers who are managing people remotely. So to be honest with you, we are still figuring out what kind of programs we need to run, which can enable our people to manage the hybrid workforce. We've got in touch with a couple of companies which are also still trying to figure out how it's going to work. In fact, a company based in Australia, I spoke to them, Transform Me, who have worked out in some programs. But yeah, they also said that we're going to experiment and see how it's going to. So I think we will have to be agile to learn, experiment, and then put the feedback back. But our commitment from our leadership team at the top level is there that we need to invest a lot in making our leaders to work in a hybrid way and manage in a hybrid way.
Right. So linked to that is really the entire mobility now being offered to employees. Now in markets like the US, there is a huge conversation around internal talent mobility. How do you really identify and attract internal talent as opposed to externally hiring? So for instance, now concepts like internal mentoring, now they're becoming extremely important. And it's not your boss who is perhaps your best mentor, but are there other people that you can find in your company who can mentor you on the goals that you have, on your career path? Secondly, are there ways in which employees can put up their hands and work on projects outside of their 9-to-6 job, which will really help them showcase their capability? Thirdly, can employees say that, look, I have expertise in this area. And today there are concepts like learning in the flow of work, where if people have an issue, then are there people they can reach out to? Are there experts that they can reach out to for answering those issues? And finally, how can the employee build his own brand, right? I think end of the day, that is what I think it is. These components which really help the employee showcase his or her capability, become visible, and perhaps define and their own career path and get and look at and they really become visible to opportunities within the organization. So do you feel that large enterprises in India are looking at this, and any thoughts around that?
So lots of questions within this, Thomas,
Yeah.
and each of them is actually a topic in itself which can take us a lot of time to discuss. But coming on the first, we started internal mentoring before the pandemic, and that still continues. So we've identified people who can be or not the managers. In addition to this, for our top leadership, we actually have engaged with external coaches. We have a set of 4 or 5 coaches who've understood the organization, and now they are being coaching our people. We have again restarted this even after the pandemic. Plus also there are some people who have done their certification coaching, and they're also kind of engaging in that. So coaching, mentoring is something which I believed in. Also there's this reverse concept of junior people mentoring the seniors. To be honest with you, that's not something which we've yet started. It may take time. The second thing which I think is said about is all this internal talent mobility. Personally, I've always believed that I give more focus to abilities than skills. Because if a person has ability, he can learn the skills very quickly. And that's where my first preference always has been, that if I have an internal talent, can I skill him rather than trying to hire a talent from outside? And I think I've seen a lot of successes on that aspect, but this has not been industrialized to that extent, because still I have the managers come and say, no, I want this person with this skill, rather than saying, okay, if he has got ability, I'll train him. Third is on the internal mobility aspect. We've been trying it out, but again, this is something which we need to do a lot more. I know that there are today platforms available which allow you to do this and make it happen. But we need to do a lot more, and there is an internal, I would say, acceptance on this, that we need to do a lot more on the internal mobility. The last piece, which is again related to, it's like how your open source platforms have been built in, and there's so much excellent the whole Linux was made in an open source way. And personally, I believe that a lot of our internal tools and applications, can I do it in the same way? As I said, that if a person has allocated some work, and if he has more time at his end, can he come and contribute to something, or he learns something and he wants to experiment and do something on these internal projects. Now, this is something which, as a concept, we started talking about it a couple of months back. We have not yet implemented, but I would like to implement and say that yes, we have this project available if someone would like to come and do it. I've had some success with the low-code, no-code platform like Power Apps, where people have picked it up and done it. But yes, this is something definitely I would like to do a lot more. The last piece is on the internal branding. I think this is again tied overall with what we spoke earlier, and also with the reward and recognition program. So if someone takes up an open source, like a project which is available, he does it, how we also reward him in some way, and that gets then branded. This is guy who's doing this project, but he's also doing this which is not within his realm or responsibility, etc. But this topic itself is, I would say, the future, where leaders like us will need to invest a lot, think about it, work with HR, talent team to see that how you can, again, I want to use this word, industrialize it, because taking 1 or 2 initiatives here and there is fine, but how do you
absolutely, making it part of your DNA, and I think it's a very exciting, and I think internal mobility is one of the most exciting things now around the world. And as you rightly said, there are lots of tech platforms as well. So I thought maybe we should celebrate that with a little song, right? And so Sunil, please join me in this very popular Hindi song of yesteryears.
Absolutely.
अजीब दास्तां है ये, कहाँ शुरू कहाँ खत्म, ये मंजिलें है कौन सी, न वो समझ सके न हम. अजीब दास्तां है ये, कहाँ शुरू कहाँ खत्म, ये मंजिलें है कौन सी, न वो समझ सके न हम. रोशनी के साथ क्यों धुआ उठा चिराग से, रोशनी के साथ क्यों धुआ उठा चिराग से, ये ख्वाब देखती हूँ मैं कि जब पड़ी हूँ ख्वाब से. अजीब दास्तां है ये, कहाँ शुरू शुरू कहाँ खत्म, ये मंजिलें है कौन सी, न वो समझ सके न हम.
Thank you.
That was fun, Sunil. So moving on from here to another very important area, which is really around the entire HR organization.
Yeah.
So the last couple of years has also put a lot of challenges on the HR organization. There have been a lot of changes in processes. There's a lot more technology which have come in. CHROs have certainly also risen to the occasion. There's been a lot of focus on them. I think so. How are you seeing the HR organization in Sopra really? How have they really evolved in your view?
So I think as in the industry, Thomas, the way the whole thing has changed. I mean, HR, if we talk about 2 decades back, they were largely involved around, as we say, time office, payroll, doing those transactions and keeping the records. I think it's changed completely from there. I personally believe each part of the transaction should be replaced by technology.
Right.
You should not have a person spending any time on that. Have those employee service portals for your alumni, etc. So where it is evolved with is that for things like payroll, attendance, performance management, etc., these should be run in an autonomous mode.
Right.
And the CHRO today has a bigger responsibility. He has to understand the business and see that how he or she is prepared for the future, whether it is in terms of talent acquisition, whether it is in terms of preparing the talent. We spoke about internal talent mobility earlier, the learning aspect, etc.
Yes.
So I think today, if there is one thing which technology is disrupting, I would say it is the HR tech space.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in the last 5 years, the way technology has disrupted it, whether it is in terms of talent acquisition, today you are using a lot of AI and ML to get your resumes, do automatic scheduling of interviews,
Correct.
giving that employee experience before he even joins it, because lot many times the employee decides to join you or not because of the experience he has.
Yes.
Then next is the onboarding. Today a lot of onboarding technology is being used there. And then after that it is the learning space, keeping a complete record. Like I have said that, can I use a technology to have a complete, like in Hindi we say, Janpatri of an employee, so that every time I don't need to go to different files located, etc. So today I think the CHRO, his job has become a lot more strategic rather than managing the business as usual, because that should get replaced by technology. Where we are at Sopra today, I think we have to do a lot more on the technology side. I won't say that we have completely kind of been able to crack it, because obviously a lot of things have happened at different times. We had a merger in 2015, 2016 where there were a merger of systems. But I think the role of CHRO today is at the boardroom, and he has an important role to play for the success of the organization.
I think so. And I think now we are seeing a lot of organizations move people around. So there are people without an HR background who have moved into HR. Likewise, people from HR moving into line functions. And clearly, CHRO positions, that position has become extremely strategic here. So any last thoughts on what you see as, what's your wish list on HR tech? Are there any specific technologies that you would like to see in the future?
So first, I think you just said it, Thomas. So my CHRO comes from a non-HR background.
Fantastic.
She worked in technical industry for almost 20 years.
Wonderful.
Same thing with my chief learning officer.
Wonderful.
She has again worked in delivery for 12-13 years before taking up this role. And I've had a couple of our HR force who's also gone back to delivery. So I'm very open to this internal mobility at now. Now coming back to my wish list, as I said initially, I would like to replace all the transactional parts of HR with technology, so that, and I don't mean that HR should lose the heart, that particular aspect of empathy and etc. But at the same time, yes, let HR spend more time on strategizing. I mean, today, hiring a good talent has become very key for the success of the organization. Today, Google's success is because they hired the best talent and they still continue to do it. So I would like that, yes, we are focusing a lot more on acquisition of good talent, putting in a lot of effort in their learning, enabling them, getting, and all the other aspects we spoke earlier. And the rest of the piece to be moved completely to technology. I know we are not yet there, but yes, that's my wish list, that if I can make it happen, so that the user whether it's your future employee, your current employee, or your past employee, all of them get an excellent user experience.
No, absolutely. And I think there are lots of areas where HR technology can continue to play a role. Now there are applications in the mental health space which have come out. So there are lots of niche areas, and I think the value that HR tech can play for future development of organizations is really amazing. Right, so thanks so much, Sunil. It was wonderful having this chat. And stay tuned to our series on the future of HR technology.